Good day everyone. Today we're going to discuss the two journals authored by Sonia Chan Santu and Glenn B. Lagura. But first, let's discuss the journal authored by Sonia Chan Santu, which is the Environmental Governance in the Philippines. So let's define what is environmental governance. So according to Martin, 2012, environmental governance comprises the rules, practices, policies, and institutions that influence how humans interact with the environment. It also takes into account the role of all actors, from governments to non-government organizations or NGOs, the private sectors, and civil society. Environmental governance encompasses mechanisms and procedures to protect and restore natural resources and distribute resulting costs and benefits. Laws and policies enable balancing interests of various sections of society to contribute towards the sustainability. So this means that environmental governance is how people, governments, non-governments, or NGOs, and organizations manage and protect the environment. So it includes rules, policies, and actions that guide everyone on how we can be able to use our resources or natural resources responsibly and in a safe way. So while we can be able to use natural resources while making sure that they are not overused or damaged. Then, different groups play a role, such as governments, businesses, non-government organizations or NGOs, and communities. So it states that they need to work together, enable for them to create laws and policies that can balance the economic growth and environmental protections, which means that we can be able to make or we can be able to develop the businesses or the private sectors while protecting our environment. So the goal of environmental governance is to ensure that natural resources are used fairly and responsibly so that the future generation can also benefit from them. Since if we're not going to protect our environment today, how can be the future generation can achieve their needs?
So I'm going to discuss about the key milestones from 1976 to 2004. Key milestones is all about development of environmental governance in the Philippines, specifically focusing on water resource management. So this Water Act highlights the major laws and policies that shape how water is regulated, protected, and distributed. So nga may key milestones. So pag-umpisa sa mga 90s, most of Filipinos or us uses water. So even nga mga mayaman, ginaabusaran nila ang tubig nga ginagamit. Kaya gaisip sila nga may pambayad sila. Wala sila kabalo nga dapat may limitasyon sa every family. So in the key milestones in 1976, it focuses on Water Code of the Philippines. So this law was enacted in 1976. So, this law governs water rights, allocations, and conversion, setting the foundation for water resource management in the country. In 1980s, this focuses on strengthening of environmental policies, particularly forestry and water resource management. In 1986 to 1989, the post-Marcos administration focused on environmental reforms, leading to increased recognition of environmental governance as part of national development. So in 1991, this law was enacted, the Local Government Code, transferring environmental governance responsibilities, including water resource management, to local government units. In 1992, National Integrated Protected Areas System or NIPAS Act was enacted. This law protects critical biodiversity areas, including watersheds and forests, which are essential for water conservation. In 1995, National Water Crisis Act or Republic Act number 8041 was enacted. And this was passed in response to severe water shortages and mismanagement of water utilities. This led to significant policy shifts, including water privatization. In 1997, another law was enacted, the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act or IPRA. This law granted indigenous communities rights over ancestral lands, including natural water resource, sometimes conflicting with national policies. So, privatization of Metro Manila's water services began, leading to division of Manila Water and Maynilan. 1999 to 2004. In 1999, their strengthening of environmental policies following privatization, focusing on monitoring and regulation. In 2004, Republic Act 9275, or also called as Clean Water Act, was enacted. So this law regulates water pollution, sets quality standards for water bodies, and imposes penalty for violations. In 2000 or present, ongoing developments in environmental governance, including stricter regulations on water management, conservation efforts, and climate adaptation policies. So, this Water Act or the K milestones focuses on water governance and environmental policies here in the Philippines. So, from early regulations like Water Code 1976 to modern reforms like Clean Water Act of 2004, the country has continuously worked towards sustainable water management. However, the challenges remain particularly in policy coordination, privatization, impacts, and indigenous water rights.
The three pillars in environmental governance development plan. Enhancing the social fabric, strengthening social cohesion and responsibility. Second, reducing inequality, ensuring fair distribution of environmental resources and benefits. Increasing potential growth, promoting sustainable economic and environmental progress. The challenges are overpopulation, puts pressure on natural resources. Second is waste management challenges, issues in handling and disposing of waste properly. Disaster waste reduction, need for better preparedness and mitigation efforts. Private sector and civil society participation, insufficient involvement in environmental initiatives, lack of compliance, poor enforcement of environmental laws and policies. For improvements, reduction of open and denuded forest lands, addressing deforestation and land degradation, management of terrestrial and marine protected areas, ensuring conservation, proper use of protected zones. For recommendations for implementation improvement, outcome-based legislative actions, laws should focus on measurable environmental outcomes. Greater government community partnership, strengthening collaboration between public institutions and local communities. Clearer mechanism of private sector involvement, defining structured ways for businesses to contribute to sustainability. Overall, this framework aims to improve environmental governance in the Philippines through policies, enhancements, community participations, and stronger enforcement measures.
Next is the National Water Security Challenge in the Philippines. There are two things that we need to consider, which is the challenges or issues and the solutions. First, here is water insecurity. In water insecurity, the Philippines faces increasing water scarcity due to growing population, urbanization, and climate change. Many communities experience inconsistent access to clean and safe water, leading to health and sanitation problems. So diri like example diri sa Coronadal tong mga people nga ang less lang sila ang maka-access sa water. So kung diin na lang ang available nga water amo na ang ginatake nila even though nang ang amo ni nga tubig is hindi siya healthy. So amo na nga may water scarcity due to a growing population, urbanization, since gidamo ang population diri sa Coronadal. Next is water availability. While the country has abundant water resources, their distribution is uneven. Some areas, especially in Metro Manila and Central Luzon, face shortage, while others experience flooding, seasonal variations, and extreme weather events worsen the problem. Sa water availability naman, hindi man natin mahambal nga sa kundiin nga lugar ng may hara sila sa access sang water. So may hara man nga lugar nga sobra-sobra na gina-access nila sa water. That's why sila may flood nga gakatabo dito. As a governance challenges, multiple agencies overseas water management, often leading to overlapping responsibilities and inefficiency. The lack of coordination among government bodies result in poor planning, mismanagement, and ineffective service delivery. So sa governance challenges naman, sila naman ang nagapangita sang way kung diin kung paano solusyonan ang mga problems, especially sa sa mga needs ng tao. Yun. Sa environmental concerns naman, pollution of rivers, lakes, and groundwater from industrial waste, agricultural runoff, and household sewage reduce the availability of clean water. Deforestation and land conversion also affect watershed areas, reducing water retention and increasing the risk of droughts and floods. Next is the solution. Institutional reforms. Strengthening government agencies are responsible for water management through better coordination, clear mandates, and efficient resource allocation can improve water governance. So sa institutional reforms naman, kung nami ang pag-manage nila sa mga, like example sa project nila sa muninga lugar, so may agad siya sang positive impact sa isa ka society. Next is infrastructure investment. Building more dams, reservoir water treatments, facilities, and efficient distribution system can improve water access and security. Investment in wastewater treatment can also help maintain water quality. Dali naman sa infrastructure investment, if the government invest in such dams and other projects, damo-damo gini siya ang maka-benefits and mag-provide nila ang needs sa mga people. Next is policy and legal frameworks. Updating and enforcing laws related to water rights, conservation, and water usage can enhance water security. Implementing long-term policies for sustainable water management is essential. If mayara sang policy and legal framework sa isa ka community mas magaan sila sang way kung paano nila i-preserve ang tubig kag hindi nila ma-waste lang hindi lang nila paggasto sa mga wala lang sang no use kumbaga. Last is monitoring and enforcement. Strengthening regulatory frameworks and ensuring compliance with water quality and conservation laws can help prevent water pollution and over-extraction. Using technology for real-time monitoring and also improve water resource management. Next is the state of water resources in the Philippines, water availability. Surface water, river, lakes, and reservoirs serves as the primary water sources for irrigation, hydropower, and domestic use. Major rivers basins such as the Cagayan and Pampanga rivers are essential for agriculture and industry but face pollution and siltation problems. Next is groundwater. Many provinces rely on groundwater for drinking and irrigation. However, excessive extraction leads to depletion. land subsidence, and saltwater intrusion, particularly in coastal areas like Metro Manila and Cebu. Next is organization and management, personal administration and policies analysis. First is National Water Resources Board, or NWRB. The NWRB is the primary agency responsible for water resource management and regulation in the Philippines. It is to issue water permits, enforces policies, and ensures sustainable water use across various sectors. Next is Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System, or MWSS. MWSS oversees water supply and sanitation services in Metro Manila. By provinces, it regulates private water concessionaries, Maynilad and Manila Water, to ensure efficient and reliable water distribution. Institutional mechanism in managing water in the Philippines. First is Government Code of 1991. This law decentralized water governance, granting local government units, or LGUs, the authority to manage water resources within their jurisdictions. It encourages community-based initiatives but also leads to fragmented policies due to varying local priorities. Governance challenges in the Philippines water sector. National level policy framework. The water sector is fragmented with multiple agencies overseeing different aspects of water governance, leading to efficiencies and coordination problems. Local water governance. Local government units, or LGUs, and water districts often faces challenges such as limited technical capacity, funding constraints, and political interference in managing water resources. Next is private enterprise in water management. Privatization has improved water services in some areas but also raised concerns over affordability, equity, and regulatory oversight, especially in urban centers like Metro Manila. Next is voluntary sector support in water. NGOs, as civic groups and international organizations, play a crucial role in providing water access, advocating for water rights, and supporting disaster response efforts. Next is technology for water governance. Innovations like smart meters, GIS mapping, and digital platforms enhances monitoring, transparency, and efficiency in water management. Key learnings from past water crises. Water shortages, contamination incidents, and droughts have highlighted the need for better planning, infrastructure investment, and climate resilience. Next is proposed solutions. Improving water governance requires integrating environmental, socio-cultural, and economic perspective while following Integrated Water Resource Management, or IWRM, principles. Last is the 5 key dimensions for sustainable water governance. First is institutional reforms. It clarifies roles and responsibilities among agencies. Next is public participation. It engaging stakeholders in decision making. Third is water security measures. It's investing in infrastructure and alternative water sources. Regulatory improvements, strengthening monitoring and enforcement. Last is climate adaptation, building resilience against extreme weather events. Last is alternative and ways forward in environmental governance. First is competitive governance approach. It encourages private sector participation and market-based solutions for efficiency. Next is collaborative governance approach. Fosters cooperations between government, private enterprises, and communities for sustainable water management. Last is policy effectiveness and environmental performance. It ensures strong regulatory enforcement, adaptive management, and long-term sustainability in the government. Institutional mechanism in managing water in the Philippines. First is Government Code of 1991. This law decentralized water governance, granting local government units or LGUs the authority to manage water resources within their jurisdictions. It encourages community-based initiatives but also leads to fragmented policies due to varying local priorities. Governance challenges in the Philippines water sector. National level policy framework. The water sector is fragmented with multiple agencies overseeing different aspects of water governance, leading to efficiencies and coordination problems. Local water governance. Local government units or LGUs and water districts often faces challenges such as limited technical capacity, funding constraints, and political interference in managing water resources. Next is private enterprise in water management. Privatization has improved water services in some areas but also raised concerns over affordability, equity, and regulatory oversight, especially in urban centers like Metro Manila. Next is voluntary sector support in water. NGOs, as civic groups and international organizations, play a crucial role in providing water access, advocating for water rights, and supporting disaster response efforts. Next is technology for water governance. Innovations like smart meters, GIS mapping, and digital platforms enhances monitoring, transparency, and efficiency in water management. Key learnings from past water crises. Water shortages, contamination incidents, and droughts have highlighted the need for better planning, infrastructure investment, and climate resilience. Next is proposed solutions. Improving water governance requires integrating environmental, socio-cultural, and economic perspectives while following Integrated Water Resource Management or IWRM principles. Last is the 5 key dimensions for sustainable water governance. First is institutional reforms. It clarifies roles and responsibilities among agencies. Next is public participation. It engaging stakeholders in decision making. Third is water security measures. It's investing in infrastructure and alternative water sources. Regulatory improvements, strengthening monitoring and enforcement. Last is climate adaptation, building resilience against extreme weather events. Last is alternative and ways forward in environmental governance. First is competitive governance approach. It encourages private sector participation and market-based solutions for efficiency. Next is collaborative governance approach. Fosters cooperations between government, private enterprises, and communities for sustainable water management. Last is policy effectiveness and environmental performance. It ensures strong regulatory enforcement, adaptive management, and long-term sustainability in the government.
So the governance challenges in the Philippines water sector So the Philippines faces significant challenges in water governance, including the national level policy framework, the local water governance, the private enterprise in water management, voluntary sector support in water, and technology for water governance. So in national level policy, it is a weak local implementation. So and private sector involvement that raises concern over accessibility and affordability. So the local governments struggle with resource limitation while the NGOs and technology-driven solutions play a growing role in improving water management. So these issues highlight the need for stronger coordination and sustainable governance strategies.
National level policy framework. Ang comprehensive national policy covers sector-specific national action plans and policies setting out specific goals, targeted implementation measures, and allocation of financial and human resources. Local water governance. The LGU performs the function covering community-based forest management, waterworks system, and water quality monitoring. Like for example, the domestic water supply in Metro Manila, one of the city centers south of Metro Manila. Private enterprise in water management, water governance relate to the enabling environment in which water management action take place that is the overarching policies, strategies, plan, finance, and incentive structure that concern or influence water resources. The relevant legal and regulatory framework and institution in planning, decision-making, and monitoring processes. Voluntary sector support in water refers to the contribution made by non-profit. Voluntary sector support in water refers to the contribution made by non-profit organizations, charities, and voluntary groups to address water-related challenges.
So next is key learning from past water crises. So the past water crises have exposed the weaknesses in infrastructure, policy enforcement, and emergency preparedness, so leading to severe shortages and disruptions. Events like droughts and floods emphasize the needs for resilient building, proactive management, and better forecasting. So addressing these challenges requires long-term planning and investment in sustainable water systems.
Proposed solution to address the governance challenges of the national level policy framework. A set of strategic solutions can be proposed to enhance efficiency, inclusivity, and sustainability. There are several key proposed solutions.
Sanay.
5-dimension institution strengthening and coordination, establish clear roles, responsibilities, and coordination among various government agencies, local government units, and private sectors. Stakeholders strengthening institute like these national water resources.
So last is alternative and ways forward in environmental governance. So there are competitive governance approach, collaborative governance approach, and the policy effectiveness and environmental performance. So in competitive governance is promotes markets driven and private sector efficiency, while the collaborative approach is encourage partnerships among government, businesses, and communities. So both methods seek to improve water governance by addressing inefficiencies and ensuring resource sustainability. So next is policy effectiveness and environmental performance. So Effective policies must ensure water sustainability, minimize environmental degradations, and improve public access to clean water. So regular assessment of governance framework and their impact help refine the strategies for better water management. So strengthening policy enforcement and accountability remain crucial for long-term environmental success.
So the conclusion for the first journal is the document emphasizes that environmental governance is a crucial driver for sustainable development since it gives policies, rules, or mechanisms enable for us to use our natural resources responsibly and to protect our environment. So it also states that it plays a key role in shaping institutional policies, fostering decision-making frameworks, and ensuring that environmental concerns are integrated with economic and social development goals. Effective governance mechanisms help balance resources utilization and conservation efforts, enabling a more sustainable and equitable future, which means that if our country has an effective environmental governance mechanism, which is a clear guidelines on how we can be able to protect our environment, then we can be able to balance our resources utilization and we can be able to save the use of our natural resources, enable to conserve it that can conserve it for the future use. So in the Philippines, environmental governance play a key role in balancing economic growth and ecological protections.
Okay, let's proceed on introduction and analysis on environmental management policy in the Philippines. Considering that Philippines is an archipelagic nation rich in biodiversity, faces significant challenges like including deforestation, pollution, climate change, and so on and so forth, especially the natural disasters. So to address these issues, our government implemented a various environmental management policy that aim to promote sustainability, not just in our present generation, but considering for future generations. So our government implemented a various environmental management policies. So there are countries' key policies includes Executive Order 23 that focuses on total lag ban, the Executive Order 79, the new law mining, Executive Order 26, the National Greening Program, and last, the Republic Act 10121 focuses on Philippine disaster risk reduction and management of 2010. So first, let's discuss the Executive Order 23 that focuses on total lag ban. Those country key environmental policies aim to provide insights into how our country can enhance environmental governance and promote sustainable development, especially balancing the economic development and ecological preservation.
Next, we're going to discuss the Executive Order 23 or the Total Lag Ban or in the Journal 2. So it states that it is issued in February to stop all logging activities across the country and create a special task force to fight illegal logging. In simple terms, it fights deforestation. So while this law helps protect forests, it also causes or it also gives us negative effects. Since this law causes that we're going to make all the logging activities illegal, and here in the Philippines, logging is a big industry that provides jobs and income. So banning it completely could lead to job losses for 650,000 workers and a loss of 30 billion in investment. So while making logging illegal, it might also push some people to continue cutting trees secretly. That can make the problem worse since ang government hindi na nila matrack if ever na yung mga tao is mag-cut na lang sila ng trees na secretly or in a secret way. So instead of a total ban, Some experts suggest finding a balanced solution that allows sustainable logging while protecting the environment. So some experts, they recommend na if yung isang company or isang industry or isang company, they support the logging activities. If magputo sila ng puno sa forest, they need to plant new trees in exchange to those trees na kinat daw nila.
Executive Order, New Law on Mining. Executive Order, New Law on Mining. It was created to improve rules on mining in the Philippines and make sure the mining benefits the country while protecting the environment. The main point of Executive Order 79 is, first, stricter rules on mining. The government made mining policies stricter to make sure companies follow environmental laws. Second, no mining in protected areas. And banned mining in certain places like tourist spots, farms, and areas important for biodiversity. More benefits for the government. The government wanted to make sure the country earns more from mining, so it did not allow new mining agreements until a new revenue sharing scheme was created. 4. Promoting responsibility mining. Mining companies were required to use better eco-friendly methods. Last, improve small-scale mining. The government encouraged small miners to register and follow safety environmental rules. In simple terms, Executive Order 79 aimed to make mining more responsible and beneficial for Filipinos while protecting nature.
So I'm going to discuss the Executive Order 26, or also known as the National Greening Program. So, the National Greening Program is a Philippine government initiative that aims to plant billions of trees, millions of hectares of public land to reduce poverty by providing livelihood opportunities and to mitigate climate change through carbon absorption and sustainable land use. So, the program involves the government agencies like DNR, the private sector, and civil society groups. So, by implementing and monitoring, this provides numerous benefits such as improved air and water quality, soil conversion, increased food security, enhanced biodiversity, and reduced greenhouse gas emissions, ultimately contributing to sustainable development, poverty reduction, and environmental protection for future generations. So, the National Greening Program, di mo ni siya nga executive order kay especially here in the Philippines kay more sa government naton gina-mining na nila gina-mining na sila, ga-cut sila sa trees without wala sila gaisip nga makagubana sa aton nga environmental. Like sa mga gas, wala na kayo ta sa namin nga air, like sa air pollution naton. And also sa mga basura, ano man ang mga tao pataka-taka lang labay sa basura. So it causes flood Japon. By aiming this, nami siya sa aton nga environment.
Let's proceed for Republic Act 10121 that focuses on Philippine disaster risk reduction and management of 2010. So, when we say Republic Act 10121, the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction Management of 2010, it focuses on strengthening disaster risk reduction and management systems. So, in this Republic Act, they ensure that disaster prevention and mitigation rather just response. Syempre, it is beneficial naman that we should need to focus on preventing and mitigating risk rather than how we can able to respond by it. Because if we are more focused on responding by it, we don't know how to mitigate those risks, and syempre if hindi natin alam kung paano maging ready when it comes sa mga natural disasters, there are so much affected by it. And also, we should always put in our minds that prevention and mitigation can save lives by identifying those hazards early, where we can take action before disaster.